The 2023 general election is a few months away, and political parties have flagged up campaigns across the country. One of the many issues of concern is the increasing menace of vote buying and trading by politicians. A few days ago, INEC was reported in the news planning to deploy undercover agents in 2023 to deal with the problem. Some questions being raised is, will that measure be enough to stop vote buyers? And why the sudden rise in the illegal act of vote buying by politicians criminalized under Section 121 of the 2022 Electoral Act? Joining us this morning as we discuss how to tackle this is Mike Igini, former Akwa Ibom State resident electoral commissioner for the Independent National Electoral Commission. Welcome to the morning show, Mike Igini.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben and Rufai.
Thank you so much.
Okay, quickly, vote buying is not new. It's corruption. And now INEC is saying it will deploy people to monitor vote buying. Does INEC have the capacity? Will they be able to mobilize the capacity? Is that not the function of the security agencies? And what we've been told is that BVAS, IREV, all of this, will minimize corruption in the coming election. So, what do you think? Do you think INEC has the capacity?
Well, thank you very much, Ruben, for your question and the intro. But very quickly, before just a few remarks by way of advice to some of the things that are going on, looking at newspaper today, what was reported about INEC. There is a growing level of intolerance in the polity at the moment, and it's very disturbing on account of the report across the country that people, which some of the INEC spoke about yesterday, issue of people not being allowed to conduct rallies or when permit has been given, talks are all over the place. This is very, very disturbing because this is the path towards 2023 election. And it must not be poisoned at all by what is going on. Democracy cannot be sustained in an environment of absolutism, not at all. It's expected, as clear by the law. Section 91 is very clear. Subsection 4 is very clear that no political party or candidate shall be prevented from holding rally. In fact, that itself, such a prevention, is tantamount to shooting the hip of democracy. This must not be encouraged. INEC has spoken. I think that the Peace Committee should up and doing. It's not just signing this and all that. They need to call the leaders out. I say this about it because in the absence of authoritative interpretation of the common good in a democracy, political parties and candidate ideas must be contested. Therefore, when we see intolerance creeping into the polity, it has to be checked because intolerance of the opinion, difference of opinion of how a country should be governed, orderly should be flourishing of ideas should be accepted, but it can become destructive if endorsed by leaders and if not condemned on time. That's my worry. Then number two, the unnecessary call to create a problem of distrust in the polity, removal of Mr. Chairman and all of that. People should stop that because under the Constitution, the removal of a chairman or a commissioner for that matter is not an easy thing to be done. People should stop what they are doing. I think my way of advice is that as we are going for 2023 election, I see a great promise by 2023 on account of the 2022 Electoral Act and the procedures of INEC that have been well secured, reinforced yesterday by the Commission in terms of the use of the beavers and all of that. So that takes me to the question that you have raised, which is very disturbing. Vote buying has now assumed the level of epidemic. We used to say it was a menace. We grew up In 1979, when we were doing elections, and prior to 1979, 1983, we used to see that they used to give salt, wrapper for people in those days. But now we have graduated from that to the level of direct giving money. And I could say on your intro about vote trading and vote buying. Vote trading is legal. It's not prohibited by the law. Vote trading is basically different from vote buying, because vote trading is a practice in parliament around the world where legislators, they trade on vote, what they call a constituency legislation, that vote for me in my area. Then when you also have a similar project in your area, I will also vote for you. That's what we call vote trading. But vote buying, which is the greatest problem we are having now, is that first, let me let Nigerian people know that I see people losing so much money in the 2023 election. People are going to lose so much money trying to buy vote on account of what is contained in the act, the procedures, if all fully implemented. And even if there are issues about poor implementation, the design of the act and INEC procedure are such that they are going to expose all of that. And that is why my word will be about judiciary. That will be a different discussion next time. But on vote buying, as I have said, it's as old, rather, trying to influence one way or the other, it's as old as the practice of politics. But we need to first look at the implication. First, what is even this whole idea? Vote buying, like any transaction, is doing something in exchange of something for value. In this case, a voter's choice on election day that politicians are going all out to deal with. Now, why is this has become a problem epidemic? Why is it that there's a spike in vote buying? The spike in vote buying is on account of the radical improvement in the electoral process. This is what is causing the problem now, that they are now going directly, because we Nigerians can easily forget where we are coming from. Time there was in this country, in 2003, 2007, when you travel home to your village to go and vote on election day, you were told by community people that, look, why are you here? We have done the votes since yesterday, because that was the era where they were writing results. Now, the election, because of the massive improvement, regrettably, which is the greatest tragedy, not complemented by a change of behavior on the part of the political class, they are now paying attention to the people. And of course, in a democracy, truly, when elections are properly conducted, elections become principal instruments to encourage elected and appointed people to pay attention to citizens. But in this direction, they are doing in a terrible, different way. So, first implication is very important that we need to deal with. The number one implication of vote buying, which is the reason why we must deal with it, looking at the law, and there's a solution we are going to discuss here today. One, if vote buying, first, electoral historians have provided us both theoretical and empirical evidence to show that we must stop it because of the following dangers. One, that if vote buying is not stopped, elected public officers will have no incentive to perform in office again. All you need to do is that when you get to office, since you are in charge of the purse, of the resources, keep the money and wait the election time and go and buy. Number two, vote buying has the implication of creating what they call class bias policy in society, because it means that, thirdly, once vote buy becomes the norm, political activities, election will become a matter for the rich and the wealthy. Number four, vote buying reinforces inequality in society. And that's why we have to deal with it. It's taking advantage of the level of poverty and the level of awareness in the society. That is why Thomas Piketty, in his contribution to strengthening democracy, when he talks about vote buying, citizen disengagement, and implication of democracy, made the point very clear that we must not do so. And that is why Section 21 you refer to under the Act becomes a dike to prevent inequality from flooding the equality of democratic franchise.
Okay, very good one on vote buying. But it's a problem. And the sad reality is that theory is different from reality.
Correct.
The sad reality is that in this 2023 elections, people will still buy votes. How can we prevent it? Does INEC have fiscal means, technological means? Because preventing vote buying would also be working with intelligence agencies to be able to intercept some prior incidents of vote buying before the elections. We also involve working with the banks. We also involve working with different security architecture. I'll give you an instance. During the primary elections, a lot of people were laughing at the EFCC officials that came to the election ground when they were looking for those that bought votes or delegates that collected money. And people were laughing and saying, do you think they will come and share money for delegates at the election ground? Most of those things are done in hotel rooms of lush, exclusive hotels. So if you wanted to have a break-in, it could have been 2-3 days before when they were sharing those monies. What do you say to all this?
Thank you. I have said severally that the book of lamentation is never written because of us Nigerians, and that there are practical ways to deal with it, and we engage on this right away. First, I repeat and agree with you first that in any society, we have never seen where society make progress on the basis of appealing or begging people. Society make progress on the basis of reward and sanction, the place of the rule of law. And I will take it from what happened in Kenya and around the world, what is being done. In Kenya, in Ghana, in US, other parts of the world, Africa here, on election day, all the courts, they are in session, they sit on election day to deal with matters that have to affect the process of election on election day. That was why on the 4th of March 2013, I was in Kenya. A manager of a senatorial candidate was found with so much money buying votes. He was arrested. He was taken to court the same day. On the 5th, the second day of the election, he was convicted because there was already a proof of evidence, and he was there for 3 years. That is what happened over there. Now, to deal with vote buying, even leave security aside. But first, the reports that have just been credited to INEC, we need to deal with that. And that is that it is a good practice if security agencies, and I hope they'll put on slide the positioning of what you call the ballots of the cubicle, because you talked about, I agree with you that you have to deal with the practical aspect, because there are difference between theory and practice. So first, what happened in Kenya and other places? They don't say don't collect money and all that. They say, look, if you are giving money, collect it. But what will you do? And that takes us to the beginning of the Genesis, because at the beginning, though, the Athenians gave us the word democracy, but they didn't give us a model. But over time, when we used to have what we call public balloting. Public balloting was the beginning of balloting in democracy. There was violence, buying of vote, killings. United Kingdom, US are the most notorious country for vote buying in their earlier days of democracy. Now, so the Australian people in 1856 gave us the word secret. They came up with the idea of secret balloting. It was secret balloting that have changed the whole trajectory. It's now a question of implementation. How does it work? When, for example, we are 20 people, we were given money before election day, as was even done in England, where a linkwall was be used to buy a vote, where in Adams County in Ohio, in 1962, could be used to buy vote. We collected money. We now said we will vote for you. But because of the introduction of secret ballot in Australia, which means that rather than public open balloting, you were given the ballot. You go to the cubicle. If you can have the cubicle now, you go straight to the cubicle. You make a choice. Once you make your choice, you put it in the ballot there. Now, at the end of the election in Australia, in 1856, when it started, that is the cubicle. Now, if you look at the cubicle there, you are also going to see the arrangement of what you call typical sitting. This is the cubicle. Now, you enter the cubicle. You make your choice. When it started in Australia, and that's what's going on in other parts of the world, you put it in the ballot. Now, we discovered that in Nigeria, we now have what we call secret open balloting system. What do we mean? Once you enter the cubicle, nobody will see you. And that is why the proposed idea, either by security agent or that what we call undercover agent, becomes very necessary. That is to say, in 2023, somebody, that is ICPC, EFCC, and any other group, they can complement INEC, because INEC is going to do what we call a new arrangement of the positioning of the cubicle in such a way and manner that the party agent will not be able to see, because in the 2023 election, you are not allowed to enter the moment you have been issued, you are undergoing accreditation process up to when you go to the cubicle and you come out to the open, because we are not what we call a modified secret open ballot system, in which case the ballot box will be in the open to put it there. You will not be allowed to use your telephone or any photographic material. That is how it was done. So in Australia, when it happened, the people who bought vote, they lost their money, because I could come out and say, I voted for you. In England, where the pounds will be turned into two pieces, they give you half. After you have voted, you come and collect the half another. I will collect half. But when the result was declared, they all lost their money. That's why it started. But there is usually a resistance, as evidenced by historical record, that whereas it was introduced in 1856 in England, in Australia, it took United Kingdom 16 years, because they had to do their own in 1872. And America, which is worst, took about 36 years. So it shows that for every civilization, there's a primitive past. So in 2023, this 2023 we are seeing here, the way INEC is going to position the cubicle is very important. Because what discourages vote buying is the inability of buyers to monitor the voter, those who have sold to.
Okay,
this
Mike,
is what is being done.
Look, let's talk about Nigeria.
Okay.
Not what they did in America. Many things that worked in America, that worked in UK, we never work here, because there's a different culture. How do you deal, for example, with the trust deficit? The average Nigerian voter out there does not trust the politician. Okay? He believes that if the man gets here, he will only remember himself, his family members, and over time he will become more important than everybody. So he wants to be paid for his vote. The vote buying, as Rufai pointed out earlier, does not take place necessarily at the polling booth. Right? When you are campaigning, you are giving people flyers, and I have practical experience. I'm not making it up. They're telling you we are not interested in the flyer. We're interested in money. Give us money. The electorate openly will ask you, okay, what is the capacity of INEC to deal with that beyond saying they are doing voter education? Education that the average Nigerian voter is not interested in. Before election money, the distribution of money is done overnight by specific persons who have been detailed by the party, by agents. And on election day, if you want to be ahead at the polling booth, you have to provide water. Is INEC going to give people water while they are waiting on the queue? Yes. Is INEC going to provide the seats? Because people have to sit now. You know, some of them will say, oh, we are ahead early and all that. Do you know that during voting, people provide chin-chin and snacks for people? You won't know how. You would think they are the ones doing it, but you just see them eating, just waiting around. There are many ways. Yeah. You know, that parties, so that's why the question has to be asked, you know, does INEC have the capacity? The undercover agents, you'll be surprised, those undercover agents too will collect chin-chin and pop-off and money. Because the big problem here is the trust deficit.
No, but yes, thank you very much. You know, you have given a clear picture, empirical evidence of our environment. But let me tell you this. And I will use 5 states to commence the answering of your question and to reinforce the confidence of Nigerian people about 2023. And that is, in Edo State, the Edo State governorship election, Anambra, Ondo, Ekiti, and the last one, Osun State, where money not deployed to buy votes. It was deployed. But can anybody say, without prejudice to anyone that is still in court, that the vote did not reflect the will of the people? Nobody can say that. I am saying that, look, help is on the way. That the current procedure we have, and we cannot go to people's home to go and stop them. As you rightly noted, that's the job of the ICPC, the EFCC, if they have sufficient manpower to deal with that. What I am telling you is that, look, in the history of Nigeria, something that will be close to what will happen in 2023 will be June 12th. The level of awareness of Nigerians now, their preparedness for 2023 is something that will be unparalleled. You will see the outcome. Good enough. And that's why I commend the National Assembly for the passage of the 2022 bill, then signed by Mr. President himself. It marked a watershed because all the procedures of INEC to deal with some of these things have been dealt with. So the vote buying you are talking about, nobody's telling you that it's not going to happen. People are going to spend money, but they are going to lose their money. Don't forget that, you know, we talk more about the election day vote buying, but the biggest spending involving dollars have to do with primaries, where dollars were used to buy a delegate. Now, ironically, the political elite that rejected direct primaries, they are coming to face direct election with the people. Don't forget, I hear all kinds of things people talk about. Look, no more incident form again in Nigeria. We are not doing, the commission is not doing what you call Bermuda accreditation. Today, people are making permutation about it. That, oh, we have these figures here, we have this figure here on the database, and so on and so forth. Do they know that under the current regime, on election day, a new register will emerge, irrespective of whatever you have on the database? So those who are making permutation of victory, be careful, because you may have millions in your local government, in your state, anywhere, any region. INEC does not deal with that anymore. On that day, at the end of the poll, a new register have emerged of those who actually came on that day, irrespective of what you have on there. And that's what Section 51 of the Act has addressed. Today, voting is based on accredited voters, number of accredited voters, not a total number of registered voters anymore. That window for rigging is gone. Section 49 of the previous act that has only 2 subsections has changed fundamentally under section 47 of the current act, in which case No individual Nigeria can bypass the beavers. Without beavers, you cannot vote in Nigeria anymore. No incident form. So people are going to waste their money. Look, my message here is this. Nigeria, don't sell your conscience. But we know that in the face of poverty, a man who has not eaten on election day and is giving money, if you take that money, go to the cubicle, and that's why INEC arrangement of the cubicle is going to be different now, because you must be able to monitor before you can say you will not get the money. And that is why you see the cubicle that you enter there and you do that, and that is the end. So our problem is implementation. It's not about ideas. Secret ballot is what we are using everywhere around the world. I just told you, it is our attitude, how to deal with it, what matters. And so in 2023, hope is on the way. And that is why when I look at the Holy Book, Matthew 24, when you talk about the end time, we are about to see the end of election rigging in Nigeria. Okay. We are about to see the end of political shenanigans in Nigeria. And so you will hear rumors upon rumors, misinformation, disinformation. Just know that the end time is coming. Lift up your eyes, Nigerians, because power has been given back to you. Look, Rufai, do you know when they talk about you want to remove INEC commissioner, INEC chairman, do you know that on election day, INEC chairman does not have any power to do anything? Do you know that a national commissioner does not have power to do anything? Do you know that a resident commissioner, EO, do not have power to do anything? And that is why it may be important again to show the pyramid. Show that pyramid. They can't do anything. You can't sign a document as a commissioner for 10 years. I could not sign any document on election day. But when those who think, who suffer the dinosaur experience in Akwa Ibom, thought that they could manipulate the process, on the eve of election, I used my hand to endorse all result sheets. That could only happen a day before election, because people have brought in already pre-written result. My worry, Abati, is my constituency, the judiciary. That would be my greatest worry before, during, and after this election. That is a subject matter for another day. Okay. But my greatest worry is my constituency. Will they stand tall and mighty in defense of this democracy and the rule of law?
So two things we want to get right. Number one now, you said no more incident form.
No more incident form.
So it is now, if the beavers doesn't accredit you, you don't vote.
You cannot vote.
But let's also segue into the conversation about your constituents, the judiciary. There are talks by the COP, the CUPP, about some people trying to go to court to get court injunction that in the case the beavers doesn't work, they should still have other way to vote. That's number one. Number two, these are part of the people's concern. I'm just sampling and giving you.
Correct.
Number two, there's a case about a certain ICT head that was taken or transferred away from Abuja. People are kicking. That's what people are saying. What would you say about those two things?
First, on the beavers, people need to know this, that it is mandatory, it is compulsory, as provided by the law. Now, the beavers perform two broad functions with sub-function therein. Accreditation. Now, to verify, to confirm, and to authenticate. What are you doing? It's bimodal. In the unlikely event that any of your fingers could not be confirmed, what about your face? Two, we now have three additional methods, which is making it 5. You use what you call the barcodes of the PVC. You use the QR of the hard copy of the register. You use your unique VIN number, the last 6 digits. And finally, your surname. That respect to the... So if Dr. Abati on that day, no matter how much we know you, that out of these 5 methods, we are not able to confirm you will not be able to vote on that day. On the issue about the legal processes that have been filed by some persons, And the questions are being asked repeatedly. Don't you think that a court of law could grant an order stopping the use of beavers? My answer has already been this. History is a graveyard for contending opinion. It is possible. Because we go back. In 1993, there was a decree after the various shift of the transition for election under the military regime that no court shall stop the holding of election on June 12th, fixed. But what happened? A Justice Ikpeme sat in the night and gave an order. It happened. We have seen recently how people go to their villages to go and get court order and keep in their pocket. I cannot rule that out. As we speak,
we don't even know, maybe some people have it already in their house.
We don't know another.
Court order against
so
beavers.
My worry is my constituency. Because to be a judge, you must be a lawyer first. Our commitment to ethics, professionalism is a problem. I can't rule that out. But it will be contrary to public policy. Nigerians are waiting for that our colleague in the judiciary that will give such an order, either discreetly or quiet. Because even right now, you see what's going on in the court? They are hiding processes from necessary party. Do you know that that's where we are right now? Matter files in court, Dr. Party. People who are supposed to be joined, they are hiding the process from them. Even when they come to the court to say, I'm hearing that there's a matter filed here, they say nothing like that. But the judgment is about to be delivered. It happened last week on the 6th of this month. So I can't rule that out. But my joy, and as I've said before, going to 2023, my contribution, joining every other Nigerians, in partnership and not partisanship, is the process. Once the process is right, the outcome will be accepted by people. I am interested in the process. And that is why we must continue to give education to the Nigerian people. Power is back to you. A REC, a national commission. Nobody can do that. How many of them know about it? That INEC is doing tracking. In Akwa Ibom, so character said, I was using magic. And there was no magic. In my next program with you here, I'm going to show you the room where we do the tracking of the 31 local government. You see computers where we track everything. INEC is going to do that. So my call on Nigerians is that go and collect your permanent voters card now. Because on election day, you are not to go to any person's office. Your office on that day, the citizen's office on the election day is your polling unit.
ICT official.
That is
the
it.
ICT
now,
official.
the issue about ICT officials, you see, in INEC as a body, from time to time, people could be, moved and deployed from one place to another. In fact, the system is designed in such a way, because we are building institutions, in such a way that even those of us who are already out of the system should be seen running. So really, it's not tied to an individual. But yes, there are issues about, crisis of confidence, what is happening, and all of that. But what I can tell you is that those issues are impersonal. You understand? As they are, they will run to their fullest cost. And that is why I use as an index, using the 5 states, because all that is being challenged in courts have nothing to do with INEC operation itself, but it has to do with whether somebody has a certificate, whether he attended this school, and so on. Those are the issues we are talking about. Nigerians, look, something is about to happen in 2023. Something is about to happen.
At this rate, INEC will have to set up a department for evangelism. Let's talk about violence,
yes,
which was one of the concerns expressed by the INEC chairman, Professor Yakubu, yesterday. There have been reports of violence. You used the word intolerance earlier on, but specifically violence.
Correct.
The PDP, at their rally in Kaduna, had to complain specifically about attacks on their supporters. The Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, has had to issue statements complaining about attacks on his supporters in Ebonyi, Nasarawa, and Lagos. Maybe other political parties have had similar experience. And Professor Yakubu was saying yesterday that, look, it will appear that, these politicians going to 2023 are determined to violate the Electoral Act and also to disregard the peace accord. You referred to the National Peace Committee earlier on. The National Peace Committee is a non-governmental organization.
Correct.
The best that it can do, and that it has done, is moral suasion. So how do we solve this problem? Because it's frightening, and it could get out of hand.
Abati, thank you. I'll be speaking on this subject very soon at the end of this month on a very wide audience in this country. But for the time being, may I say this here, that democracy will not take root in an attitude of absolute environment. That the evidence of violence that is coming up need to be dealt with. And I can see that perhaps there's ignorance, not only ignorance here, because, Abati, do you know that under the current act, and that's why I thank the National Assembly and the Mr. President for signing this into an act. The Police Act, the Public Order Act, for the time being have been put in abeyance under Section 91, subsection 3 of the current 2022 Electoral Act, to the effect that under Section 1, that the role of the police, now we have added Nigerian Security and Defense Corps to join the police for internal security, is to ensure, is limited to providing security for people. Now, what is going on is a complete aberration. The committee, because of the composition, the kind of people, the Matikuka of this world, well-respected bishop and all that, because of the stature, their moral authority, but that will not be enough to deal with the activities of extra-legal and non-legitimized actors that are planning to curtail citizen participation, because the window that has been extended from 90 days to 150 days under the current act was intended to have a robust engagement with Nigerian people on the key issue that matter to Nigerian people. But regrettably, these early signs are worrisome, and as an irresponsible EMB, the INEC has come out to speak on this issue. It is my hope that the Peace Committee, all the media platforms are ready to bring people on board. And in fact, what the Peace Committee should do now is to ensure that they call a meeting, speak on this matter. Let's begin to identify a political party, the members or leaders who are fueling this very poisonous atmosphere, because it's going to be dangerous for us to have this kind of thing. Democracy cannot strive in the soil of absolute, not at all. It is dangerous. And that is why we must borrow from other nations. Nigeria cannot be in autarky of best practices around the world. We should not be under the radar of civilization. When they had issues like this in other countries, how did they handle that? You recall the Ballot Act in England was promulgated. The Corrupt and Illegal Practice Act was promulgated to the extent that if you are involved in certain level of violence, you could be banned from politics for life. Here in Nigeria, we have to give a shock treatment, a very severe punishment to politicians, because 98% of the problem we are going to have in this election, they will come from political leaders because of their being disarray, because of lack of consensus. And usually, in a new election formation year, 2023 is like 2007, where people will be in disarray. So this is very important in order to have a good atmosphere leading to the 2023 election, where Nigeria will be able to exercise their franchise.
Thank you so much. All right, we'd like to say a very big thank you.